And so, rounding out college football, so we haven't talked about this, but the Michigan sign stealing scandal. So, look, I can't believe, like, I mean, I guess I can believe that it is a big deal. And I want to say that at the outset. This is a big deal. Michigan broke a rule that's been around for a long time that everybody knows about. This is not like some kind of thing pulled out of left field. You're not allowed to go send people to games to scout, and you're damn sure not allowed to videotape the sideline, just like you're not allowed to do in the NFL. So I think the rule is fair. I think there's all kinds of teams that don't follow it. And I think for the way Michigan did this, where they did everything they could to try to get caught, is disturbing. So I think if they get caught, I think they should get into trouble. Now, how much trouble? I'm not freaking out about this because I'm sorry. I don't believe that whatever they're doing is causing them to win all these games. They're winning these games because they're really, really good. Okay? Are there concerns about it? Absolutely. And the number one thing for me is they're not cheating now because everybody, and even if they wanted to, they couldn't because all these other teams are looking for it now. They've all fixed, trust me, all these teams have adjusted their signals. They're not going to let Michigan get away with this when they play them. So anybody saying, well, this championship will be tainted that's just nonsense. Okay? They should get in trouble. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I was telling you on the phone, I think it'll be about a year before we hear anything about what's going to happen. And I feel, I think it's unfortunate because it makes Michigan look terrible. It makes Harbaugh look terrible. And they've got a good team, and they're kind of tarnishing everybody's attitude towards them because of it. So, first off, how do you feel about the sign stealing thing? And then we'll talk about the hypocrisy that I think is involved.
Well, yeah, they need to get in trouble, and I think they will. Because, it's one thing during the game to be, trying to steal a couple things or get some sort of advantage. But when you systematically try to get an advantage outside of the game itself, then it becomes, it's like, come on, what are you doing? And am I surprised by it? No. Jim Harbaugh is, a maniac. He's just bizarrely competitive all the time about everything. Okay? The stuff about his kids, like, they like run around the neighborhood during Halloween like multiple times to get as much candy as they possibly can. He's just, he's a really talented coach who's got a couple screws loose, which you kind of have to be a really good college football coach. So I'm not surprised by it, but they do need to get in trouble because he definitely took this too far. Will there be probation? Possibly.
I just think that's too far. I just think it's too far. I don't think the school should go on probation and not be allowed to play games on or do some kind of nonsense, whatever. I also don't think the NCAA should go back and vacate wins because of this. Like, I just think that's a bridge too far. Should they punish this? Absolutely. They should punish the school. Michigan should get in trouble. I totally agree. But I don't think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, we'll see. Unless there's like others. See, the problem is other stuff could come out.
Right.
Like, not just about the cheating, but just other stuff going on because the NCAA doesn't have time. They don't have the staff. They don't have the manpower to really be investigating and staying on top of stuff. They investigate stuff because people tell them about it or they hear about it.
Right.
And then they basically, in my opinion, go, okay, we're going to, with stuff where they go, we think this is bad, then they decide to make an example out of people. Because again, they don't have the staff to really police everything the way that it probably should be policed. So they want to deter stuff by making examples of people. And so probation might be possible. Maybe it doesn't happen. I don't know. But that might be possible because it's a high profile thing and this is a chance for them to flex because they've been getting their asses handed to them for the last few years by the Supreme Court and, other things that have kind of taken some of their power away. So maybe they want to kind of flex and, maybe we'll see. I could just, again, I'm speculating here. I don't know if that's really going to happen, but that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. So here's what bothered me this week. So Paul Feinbaum of ESPN decides to go on the air and be like, you know what? I wasn't really trying to be really harsh with Jim Harbaugh. I was kind of defending him up to this point. But you know what? Now the Big Ten needs to come down on them, and they need to make an example out of them. This is ridiculous, and they shouldn't be allowed to get away with this nonsense and blah, blah, blah. Goes on a whole diatribe about it. Nobody corrects him, right? Nobody has a counterpoint to anything he says, okay? And my opinion on this is, like, Paul Feinbaum's been working in, in the SEC, specifically Alabama, for I don't know, 30 years, something like that. And it's like, this is what you're super, super duper upset about? Like, when Cam Newton was going through his stuff at Auburn and they just reinstated him the same day that they apparently disciplined him, I didn't hear anybody complaining about it at the time. Oh boy, something's got to be done about this. Even though all the rules that were being broken then were way worse. I also think there's an element of this where in the SEC, it's like, we're not going to tell on another school because we don't want them to know what we're doing. Right? So the SEC is not telling on each other. Meanwhile, one of my first thoughts when this sign stealing thing came out was, well, if they're doing that in the Big Ten, what in God's name are they doing in the SEC? Because how much more competitive it is. So I think this is the Big Ten schools trying to be uppity, and they're all like telling on Michigan because, well, we wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. It's, yeah, because your school sucks. Like, there's a reason Michigan State and Iowa are telling on people because you suck, okay? And you're upset that Harbaugh is kicking the shit out of you every year. So, yeah, it just the hypocrisy in, the Big Ten has to do something when, oh my God, like, dude, you work in the biggest place where all of the cheating goes on. And you're trying to tell me about, and the SEC was cheating for years. Okay, the Big Ten schools finally got to, we can NIL, we can pay the players now. Good. The SEC have been doing that for 100 years. So it just bothers me that the Big Ten has to do something, blah, 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 blah. And, and it just cracks me up that this is the place where we've arrived, where we're just going to ignore everything that's happened in college football for forever, and we're going to get pissed off about sign stealing. Okay? So I couldn't believe the hypocrisy in it, and it blows my mind. Now, I already said Michigan should get in trouble. I'm not absolving Michigan and saying, it's no big deal. No, it is. It's important. You can't allow this to happen if it's, that's a rule. Like, you can't allow them to do it. No, regardless of what I think the rule or how stupid it is, it makes no difference. You can't be doing that, and you certainly can't be doing it the way that they were doing it. But is this, like, massive lack of institutional control cheating? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's obviously, that's a little nuts. I mean, the Big Ten, it's just funny to me, the Big Ten getting all upset about this stuff. And it's like, well, you guys have and that's why, like, different conferences, like, there's a different sensibility there. Like the SEC, it's, football's not life and death. It's much more important than that. In the Big Ten, it's, well, we got academics and we'd like to win and, but we want to do it a certain way. And, you remember Jim Tressel was, writing books about being a great leader and all this other stuff. Like, there's just a different sensibility with that. So, I mean, the other Big Ten schools complaining about it, it's like, I mean, I understand if you think, that gives them an unfair advantage, but even if they weren't doing that, you think you'd be losing by 20 to Michigan instead of 40? Like,
well, no. And by the way, like, it's very simple. Okay. The guy shows up at your game. You have your security, you go up to him and say, listen, dude, get the hell out of here. And I won't tell, but don't show up at our games. I mean, it's just like, I just feel like this would be done differently, just about anywhere else. So yeah, it just I just couldn't believe that. It's like, they've got to come down on him, and then I'm hearing this. Well, we have to let them have due process, and it's like, this isn't a court of law, people. Like, well, Harbaugh and the excuse making. By the way, this is one thing I will agree with. The excuses being made for Michigan are complete bullshit. Okay, Rich Eisen is on there. Well, Harbaugh didn't know anything about it. Okay. First of all, doesn't matter, okay? Makes no freaking difference whether he knew about it or not. Somebody on your staff does something, you are responsible for it. So I don't want to hear that. They didn't know, oh, they didn't know anything, blah, blah, blah. And it's like I was reading a tweet from Jason McIntyre, and he's like, this one guy went rogue. Michigan shouldn't be punished for that. Okay, come on now, okay?
That's not how anything works in America. That's not what
No.
we do. Okay, we don't allow you to get off through, oh, well, I didn't know. I was unaware of that. That's not in the court of public opinion or in court or with other stuff like college football. That's not how things go. You can't just get off with, oh, I didn't know. Well, maybe you didn't know, but you should have known. Okay? Like if we're gonna get on here and rip college football coaches and say, well, if you lose, then we need to fire you because you should have control of everything and you should be winning games. You can't say that and then at the same time go, oh, well, he didn't know. And
Right.
the people saying that are just they're Michigan fans, which again is one of the things about sports that's just completely ridiculous to me. The laundry blinds us to being objective about anything with sports. It's just, well, my guy did it, so it's fine. But your guy, oh God, that's the end of sports as we know it. That's completely unfair.
But it's not. And here's the thing: it's not going to affect the championship this year. Okay, if Michigan wins the title, there'll always be people that say, "Well, they did this and they did that." Like we don't have enough of those championships in college football. Like seriously, like every fucking time. Like I remember Florida State won it in '93 with the Charlie Ward team, and people still were on about that. All these guys took money from this guy and that guy and whatever. So that's the way college football is. There's always going to be questions asked about a team winning a championship. There's never a championship team anymore, especially in this day and age, that is absolved of any kind of blame or wrongdoing. So I'm fine with it. If they win the championship, whatever, they win the championship. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, they didn't deserve the blah blah blah. They shouldn't be allowed to play any games and blah blah blah. Man, come on, like get out of here with that.
Well, I mean, so it depends on the situation. Like this one, I'm not going to be upset about that. But like for instance, with baseball, with the Houston Astros, what they did,
right?
That's like they go, oh, we won 2 World Series in 7 years. I'm like, yeah, one of those I really, sorry, I don't really count that because you guys, I mean, that was ridiculous. So, but
Right.
there's very few situations like that. Even with the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots cheated. Do I think that's the reason why they kept winning all those games? No. It probably helped them in some of them, but again, that wasn't something where I was like, just completely like, oh God, that's cheating, and they should take stuff away.
Yeah.